Less than a year ago, all I knew were how the pieces moved on a chessboard. Today, I'm 1600 rapid and over 1800 in both Blitz and Bullet. This is the story of how I did it and how you can do it too. In January of 2023, I started my chess profile on chess.com and played my first rapid game. It went about how you'd expect. By this point, I had watched a few chess videos, especially Gotham chess, which sparked my interest to properly learn how to play in the first place. I played on and off for a month until the end of February, where my lowest point was about 500 elo. From that point onwards, I started to climb up to 600 and practice doing puzzles, all while consuming an enormous amount of YouTube content. I kept improving slowly by just doing puzzles and playing consistently to practice my newly gained chess knowledge. As my tactics improved and my YouTube chess binging kept me up until 3 a.m., I passed 800 elo by the end of April 2023. But what can you do as a beginner to reach the milestone of 800 elo? Well, these are my 5 most important tips for beginners. First, think before you play a move. I know it sounds simple and you hear it all the time, but it becomes a core component of how you play. As you get better, this same idea is still important, but it just gets more complex. Each time you make a move, you should be asking yourself things like, can I be taken, and does this move help me at all? If you do this for every move you make and learn to get quicker at it, you'll quickly get to 800. Second, practice simple tactics and checkmating patterns. Whether it be king and queen checkmates or discovering you can make a battery with a queen and a bishop, practicing these ideas will help you recognize similar patterns in games. Especially at lower ratings, these ideas might appear frequently, and just coming up with an attacking plan could help you win the game. Third, develop your pieces in the center and castle quickly. Many people will say you shouldn't focus on openings as a beginner, and for the most part, that's true. It's a good idea to gain an understanding of how your pieces can support your center space before you start learning specific openings. Developing your center pawns, knights, and bishops to castle quickly is a good way to make it safely out of the opening. Now that being said, if you're set on learning openings as soon as possible, here's a few you can practice as an early beginner. Fourth, don't bring your queen out too early. I know how tempting it is to see the queen staring at all those pieces and wanting to bring it out and take everything, but don't give in. The queen is your most valuable piece, and you don't want to lose it in epic fashion before the game's even begun. Focus on your other minor pieces and use your queen to set up attacks in the middle game instead. And finally, fifth, always be watching what your opponent wants to do. Not only should you decide what you want to do, but what your opponent wants to do as well. At the beginner level, many games come down to simple piece blunders and not seeing the attacks. After every move, you should be evaluating what the opponent's plan is, how can I prevent it, and how can I make a counter attack. Once I hit 800 elo, I started to play much more than before. Within less than 2 weeks, I went from 800 to 1000 just by playing consistently and taking in the lessons I was learning from my puzzles and YouTube content. By this point, I'd adopted 2 openings that I still use for white and black, the London and the King's Indian. These were, and still are, my go-to openings for white and black, mostly because of their more passive nature and preventing me from getting too aggressive and losing all of my pieces. These openings helped me cross the 1000 mark and got me closer to 1100, however I started to plateau around the 1050 mark. I decided to take a break, and so I stopped playing for about 2 weeks. I came back at the beginning of June and for some reason played 26 games in one day. I somehow managed to win 20 of those 26 games and got from low 1000 to almost 1200 immediately. I kept playing until a couple days later when I finally hit my goal of 1200 elo. Now, what helped me get to a rating of 1200 were these 3 main steps. First, learn your openings. By this point, you understand the pieces and you're starting to make less blunders. The best way to gain an advantage is to learn openings that suit your style. Learning openings for both black and white can easily help you have advantages over your opponents as early as move 5 or 10. Learning all the tactics and ideas of your openings can help you set traps for your opponent or win material early on. Second, practice endgames. Endgames become a huge part of your games now, since you won't be ending every game after blunders on move 4. Doing puzzles and endgame training is crucial to understanding how to win positions. Some endgames you'll see very often are either rooks, bishops, or knights with pawns, or your king and pawns. Understanding when to bring your king, push your pawns, and use your pieces to your advantage will help you secure victory in many of these endgame positions. Third, come up with attacking strategies. Low-level chess is much different than videos you see of Hikaru calculating 15 moves in advance. Many times, your opponents will fall to simple ideas, like making a battery with your pieces, or bringing your rooks to the back rank and eating all of the pawns. These simple ideas can win you a lot of games, since many times your opponents won't know how to deal with them. Once I hit 1200, I started to plateau again and didn't know how to break through. I played much less overall going into the summer and decided to go outside and touch grass instead. It wasn't until the middle of July when I finally reached 1300 after only playing spurts of rapid games. After I hit 1300, my games were becoming more difficult, but I decided to take a few days off from feeling the outside and climb to 1400 at the beginning of August. It was at this point where I wasn't sure if I could keep going any further. From this point onward, I decided to focus less energy on chess, or at least on rapid chess. I'd been playing way too much speed chess and probably fried my brain from too many tilting bullet games. However, I kept improving slowly, and by the beginning of September I hit 1500. I kept playing rapid until finally, as of November 2023, I hit one of my big goals of 1600 ELO. And that's a win. Nice. After way too many videos of Gotham screaming at me and playing bullet at 3 AM, I had finally done it. So how can you get up to 1600 ELO? Well, these are some of my final tips to get you into the top 2% of players. First, practice time management. By now you have a good grasp of your games and ideas, but you may run into time trouble for thinking too long. Review your games and practice playing in similar positions to train yourself to make moves faster. The faster you can make accurate moves, the more time you'll have in games and you won't turn into the Hulk from getting flagged. Second, know how and when to move your pawns. Your pawns are a key asset to your attack, and understanding when to move them is important. Whether it be pawn breaks or when to start pushing your passed pawn, you must learn in positions where your pawns need to go. Computer analysis of your games is a great way to learn and practice this. Third, understanding your positions. Often you will now start to see different kinds of positions like closed or open ones. Knowing when to break through or when to attack will help you in your games. Knowing when to have a pawn break in your closed position or when to start an attack in your open one will help you navigate your games at the intermediate level. Fourth, and finally, the most important tip for any level, know when to stop playing. So many people will get stuck at their elo because they don't know when to stop. If you keep playing after multiple losses, you're most likely going to keep losing. Knowing when you're too tilted and when you need to relax will help you calm down and come back another time with a better mental state. That's all I have for you today, so I hope you enjoyed and I hope you learned something. And remember, chess is just a game, so have fun. Consider subscribing and checking out my other videos, and I'll see you in the next one.